When we talk about what makes an NFL running back explosive, we commonly think of things like muscle size or raw strength. However, there's two factors that help separate elite athletes from the rest: neuromuscular efficiency and rate of force development. In this video, we're going to break down what they mean, how they work, and why they're so critical to peak performance on the football field. Let's start with neuromuscular efficiency. This is the nervous system's ability to quickly and efficiently activate muscles in order to generate a contraction and a response. Think of the brain as the quarterback and the muscles as the running back. The cleaner the handoff, the faster the running back can respond, and the cleaner and more effective the play then is. Now, there's several different aspects that we need to look into when talking about neuromuscular efficiency. The first one being motor unit recruitment. Motor units are the basis of skeletal muscle contraction, where what's happening is a single motor neuron runs down and is responsible for innervating and getting specific muscle fibers to fire when an electrical impulse comes through. Now, when we think about motor unit recruitment, there's a couple of things to consider. We have to talk about making sure that the right fibers are being fired at the right time. Specifically with any type of contraction, initially, the first muscle fibers to contract are our type 1 fibers, which we talked about in the last video, are your slow oxidative fibers. They take longer to fatigue, but they don't produce as much force. We need, for an NFL running back, we need to get these more explosive, these type 2 fibers to contract quickly in order to produce the right amount of power. The next thing that we need to talk about is rate coding. Rate coding is the rate at which motor neurons send impulses through into the muscle in order to cause a contraction. When you have an increased rate of contractions, you not only have an increased contraction potential, but also what we call force summation, where you'll have a stronger contraction. Next, there's synchronization. So getting all of these muscle fibers, not only within a single motor unit, but multiple motor units to work together and contract at the same time so that you have the most amount of power and force within a single instance, rather than a contraction here, a contraction there, and those two forces don't add up. Lastly, there's antagonist inhibition. So when we think about a muscle that's working, we commonly call that the agonist. It is the muscle that is performing the work or the action. Conversely, we have the antagonist, just like an antagonist in a story. They will usually do the opposite job of the agonist. What can happen is if the antagonist is too tight or it's being contracted at the same time, it actually makes the job harder for the agonist, because not only does it have to perform the action that you're asking it, but it has to fight against a resistance as well. Ultimately, these four factors contribute greatly to neuromuscular efficiency. And so when you're comparing two fantastic athletes that have the same muscle size, the one with greater neuromuscular efficiency will ultimately be able to generate more power and perform better on the field in this specific way because their neuromuscular efficiency is higher. Now, let's connect that to rate of force development, or RFD. If neuromuscular efficiency is the wiring, rate of force development is the speed of the electrical current. RFD measures how fast you're able to produce force within the first few hundredths of a second of a contraction. Sprinting, cutting, and tackling require force to be produced almost instantly. With RFD, it relies heavily on neuromuscular efficiency, because when you're talking about rapid production of force, the faster you can recruit and fire motor units, the more force you're going to be able to have. Without high RFD, an athlete might be really strong, but they may be too slow to apply that strength onto the play because of lack of development at a high rate. So how do you actually improve RFD? What does the body do? Well, the body has to end up firing those type 2 high force, fast fatigue muscles faster in order to generate that higher force. The type 1 fibers aren't going to produce as much force, even though they're fatigue resistant, so you're not going to get that same power output. Similarly, you want stiffer tendons. So stiffer tendons are able to then transmit more force, which then results in higher power output. And finally, we need to get the brain, the neuro side of this equation, to fire rapidly and with high frequency in order to get that signal from the brain to the muscles as fast as possible, so that the muscles, those type 2 fibers, can produce the force. Now, what can you actually do to address this? Well, we're talking about very specific training, such as Olympic lifts, plyometrics, resisted sprints. All of these things force the body to produce high levels of force within very tight time constraints, which is RFD, right? Rate of force development. For running backs, neuromuscular efficiency and RFD work hand in hand. Even looking at something at the beginning of the play, the explosive starts. Neuromuscular efficiency allows for that explosive start by making sure that those type 2 explosive fibers are activated. Rate of force development allows for that power output to be high quickly so that they can actually be explosive and they're not just moseying off the start of the play. Things of change of direction, different cutting movements. Rate of force development allows for that quick explosive movement and that quick change of direction, but it's neuromuscular efficiency that not only allows for the coordination of transmitting which muscles are then firing and making that quick cut from one side to the other and using those appropriate muscles, but also quieting the antagonist muscles on the other side so that they're able to move in one direction and then immediately go back the other way. And finally, looking at something that running backs are kind of expected to do, which is breaking tackles. Being able to produce force in a way that catches the defender off guard and faster than the defender can react is ultimately a huge factor into how a running back plays. When you think about it, one of the main statistics is yards after contact, YAC. And being able to have power and rate of force development in this neuromuscular efficiency in order to get past these defenders or quite frankly run through them is key to making those yards after contact. Now, the catch with all of this, both neuromuscular efficiency and rate of force development begin to decline with age, specifically in your late 20s, which obviously is not a coincidence and why we're doing this little video segment. As you age, motor neurons are lost and become less efficient, and tendons become less stiff. So then all of these things work together to not be able to produce force as quickly. This beginning of a decline of some of this neuromuscular efficiency and rate of force development is why you start to see NFL running backs' careers and powerful kind of explosive abilities decline when they're in their late 20s, early 30s. So when you see a running back hit a hole with lightning speed or watch Derrick Henry run over that poor cornerback that should not be trying to make that tackle, remember that it's not just raw strength. It's the brain and the body and the nervous system working together to produce force efficiently and quickly with things like neuromuscular efficiency and rate of force development. And then as these factors start to decline, so does the running back's performance. For more breakdowns into why NFL running backs start to decline once they're around that age 28 mark, make sure you like, subscribe, and drop your questions down in the comments below. And I'll see you in the next one.